Hey everybody. Hi family. I'm a grateful recovering addict. My name is Betty. Wow, I'm like so grateful that I got to hear like all of that clean time and everybody celebrating milestones. It literally lights every cell in my body up on fire. And like I just sat here like in wonderment, like, wow, this is like something. Oh, I got it. I just like sat here in wonderment, like, wow, I'm a part of this, like I'm a part of people healing and I'm a part of people growing. And like, that is just so far away from the last version of myself, like I was not part of anything constructive with any people. And this is just, just listening to all that just like really threw me for a loop, it just like, it was a wave of realization, like I'm part of something beautiful today. That's not what my life was like before, and I'm really grateful that I get to be a part of something beautiful today. I have 2 years and 6 months and 29 days today, and that is a total miracle. I seriously, in the end, I was like so strung out. I like couldn't even get 2 minutes clean. Like my whole life was like 1 square foot of space. It was like me standing in front of my drug dresser. And I was just stuck in that one little space. I couldn't get out of the house to do anything. It was like completely debilitating. And I see some people that I know in this meeting, and I share often. And sometimes like when I see people that I know, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to like say my story because they've already heard it. But I opened up the Living Clean book to see like if I should change what I'm talking about, like just to a random page to see what it said. And it said a spiritual journey. And then it said, the line that I looked at immediately was some people have a hard time expressing their spiritual experiences in words. And that's something that I've cultivated over the last 2.5 years, is being able to share about the spiritual journey of coming into recovery. So I'm going to do that. And I grew up in a really chaotic home. I know that's a story that many of us have, not all of us. We all have our own stories. But in my home, addiction is like the bloodline. Like it's a whole family of addicts. It's my lineage forever. My whole family is like a perpetual cycle of poverty, addiction, molestation, rape, incest. And it's just like this wheel that like, nobody seems to be able to get off of. And it's exhausting being the one to break all the generational curses, but I've taken that on myself. And I'm really grateful that I found recovery. And, like my family doesn't necessarily understand me because like this is just so far away from anything that we've ever known. So like they're not part of my life in recovery. Like I've found my spiritual family in NA. Like the holidays just came. And I spent Christmas with you guys. I was sitting in a marathon meeting, eating my Chinese food. And like, that's who I spent Christmas with, because that's who I wanted to be around. Like you guys are the people that I want to be around. I feel spiritually forged to every single person in this room, even though I don't know you. Because we're all on this amazing journey together. Even when we don't like it, we're still on this journey together, So my family is very dysfunctional. And I wore that as like a badge of honor. I thought that it was really normal. I thought that it was totally normal to like get evicted once a year and like have your whole life uprooted and moved somewhere else. I thought that it was normal to steal your groceries and to have your parents not out, and just like not be present in your life. My parents they both suffered from the disease of addiction. Their addiction progressed in a really disgusting way over the course of my life and their lives. And in 2007, my parents committed suicide together due to their addiction. They were like facing another eviction. All of the utilities were shut off. And this was just like, they were tired of being tired. And so they made this decision to kill themselves. And it was traumatizing and tragic, and really difficult to understand. And I wore this as like a cloak of victimization, like this death, this like double suicide gave me an excuse to use for the rest of my life. Like there was no way that you could tell me that I can't use drugs or I can't drink, because I can't deal with my life. Like my life is racked in stigma and grief and loss. And like, I have to sedate. I have to medicate myself to get through my experience. And the reason why I share this trauma with you is because this is still a part of my story. And today I don't have to use over it. Like I ran from that grief for over a decade because I just couldn't face like what my life was because of this experience. And today, almost 2 years and 7 months in, like I don't have to use over this. Like I can get through anything because I have spiritual principles in my life today. I have a community that supports me, and that is amazing, And that wasn't the first trauma in my life, and it certainly wasn't the last trauma in my life. And like all of my traumas were just like excuses to use. I had a boyfriend who passed away from drugs. He died of a cocaine overdose. His heart exploded. And I felt really responsible for that death because like we were using because of me, because like that's what I thought life was. I thought life was using. And so like I introduced him to drugs and then he died. And, I never felt guilty about my parents. I just felt like a huge sense of relief when they died. But when my boyfriend died, I felt really guilty, and that spun me into like a whole new chapter of my addiction because like I just needed to not be myself. And I started using drugs that like I swore I would never touch again, and like I started smoking methamphetamine. And if you don't have any experience with that drug, Hitler invented meth and was on it. So that drug is like insane, like genocide insane. And it took me to a bottom that I did not know existed. The end narrative of my active addiction was that I was a meth head prostitute strung out on heroin, and I was about to be homeless. Like that is where drugs took me. It took me to the very, very bottom. And I hit like so many bottoms in my life. When I look back in hindsight, I didn't even realize that they could keep getting deeper, But like I lost everything. Like I've lost husbands, pets, apartments, like my dignity, my sanity, I lost everything. And I had like this white light moment on like this overdose of hallucinogens that I had taken. And I was transported to the space between life and eternity in a non-physical realm, enveloped in unconditional love, in blinding white light. The people who have near-death experiences, they describe the same space that I was in. And in a way, it was a near-death experience. I had been trying to kill myself slowly with drugs my entire life, and this was sort of like the culmination of all of that. And I was a devout atheist. I mean, like devout, militant. I had long philosophical arguments about how there was nothing more. And then I had this experience where I was sitting with Source, which is what I choose to call my higher power, the source of energy that I come from as a piece of energy. It's not a form or a gender. It's not a race or a class. It's just an effervescent ball of unconditional love that I am sparked from. And like being an atheist and being in this space, I was pissed. I was like, I'm probably the only spirit ever to make it to heaven and be mad. I was like, oh, I can't believe that I'm wrong. Now I have to like unlearn and relearn everything. Yikes. And I was shown some things in my spiritual experience. I was given some spiritual knowledge that I hold very dear to myself. And I was shown that I had chose all of the adversity in my life before I got here. That there's not just like an afterlife, there's also a pre-life. And I was taken through my pre-birth planning. And I saw the moment that I picked my parents and the moment that we picked their death and the reasons why. The partners that I would have in all of my traumas, sexual, physical, emotional. And like I had this moment where I got to come out of my victim mentality, like I was shown that I had chosen all of this. And so in that moment, I stopped being a victim and my consciousness shifted and I became like a co-creator of my reality. Like I was able to go from being a victim of circumstance and rise into my divinity as a co-creator of my own reality. And the amazing thing about this fellowship is that we get to come to an understanding of a higher power on our own. And this is something that has really helped me through my experience, adopting this belief through my spiritual experience. And so I share about it very openly and candidly. Not to try to convince you of anything, just to share my own hope. And if it's something that sounds cool, please use it. And if it doesn't, please leave it behind. But this is something that has truly helped me get through my experience. And I'm so grateful that like I don't have to conform to somebody else's idea of a higher power in this fellowship. I get to design my own. So after this insane spiritual experience that I had, like I begged to stay there, and they were like, no, you have to go back. And I was like, no, it's like Earth is like a dumpster fire. Don't make me go back there. Like, I'm totally cool chilling in heaven. Like, this is fine. And they told me that like this was my opportunity to overcome, like I get to be the hero of my story and overcome all of my adversity. And there's like a whole nother part of the book to finish, And I came back here begrudgingly, and it just became so obvious to me that like recovery was my only option. I found myself on a train with no destination, and a man appeared across from me, and he was wearing an NA necklace, and I heard a voice, and it said, "That's the path." And I was like, no, I will not do this. I was like stomping my feet and shaking my head. I just did not want to do recovery. Like I had never seen anyone recover. I had never heard anyone recover, and like I didn't want to take that on, But I begrudgingly followed that man to a meeting, and I went to a few more meetings over the next couple of days, and I found myself in a meeting with a program director of a long-term inpatient women's therapeutic community here in Brooklyn. And, I realized that she was in the meeting, like after I had had a thought that I didn't know how to be a person. I had this thought like, oh my God, I don't know how to be a human without drugs. Like nobody ever taught me. I really don't know how. I don't know how to do anything. I don't even know how to brush my teeth without being high first. And then this woman just appeared right next to me, and like her job is teaching women how to be women again after the use of drugs, And so, I like had a plan in my mind. I was going to talk to her after the meeting and beg her for a bed in her facility. And the meeting ended, and she had left early, and I didn't realize it. And I was like, oh man, I felt like so defeated. So I went to go get on the bus to go home. I knew that I was going to call a facility, and that was going to be my next step. And when I got onto the bus to go home, that woman was sitting right there. She was on the bus. Like, she left the meeting early and somehow wound up on the same bus as me, And I like ran up to her totally manic. I was like, oh my God, this is totally divine. You're actually an angel here on earth, and I need you. Can you help me? And like she said that they had beds. And so I went to that program the very next day with just the clothes on my back. I wanted nothing from my old life. I didn't take any pictures. I didn't pack any furniture. I was on the verge of homelessness. I was about to lose my apartment. I even had a $200 vibrator that I left behind. It was like my most prized possession, okay? And I left it. And I went into rehab. So like, I think I was pretty serious about it, I like literally considered taking it with me. I was like, didn't they let me have this, So I stayed in that program for 17 months. It was like a large chunk of my recovery that I spent there. And that program gave me so many opportunities. It gave me an opportunity to see how messed up I was as a person through all the reflections of myself. Like in that program, you weren't allowed to like go into the refrigerator. You had to like ask somebody who was there longer, an upper peer, to go into the fridge for you. And I was like, what is this about? Okay, I know how to use a refrigerator. And then I realized through being there that like it was about asking for help. Like I have to ask for help and check in with everything. Like now I see I have to check in with my higher power with everything. Should I eat this? Should I walk this way? Should I wear this today? Like just getting into the practice of asking for help, because it prepared me to come into these rooms and throw up my hand and say, help, That program gave me the opportunity to go to school, and I became a peer advocate. I actually have a job in the recovery field now. Like, that is such a crazy sentence to say, I used to be a prostitute, and I was a pimp. I used to manipulate women. I would get them strung out on drugs, and I would prostitute them to make money to support my own addiction. And today I have this amazing opportunity to make a universal amends, and I assist women on their recovery journeys today. And it's a gift that like there's just no words for me to express like how grateful I am that like I have this opportunity to help others, because I really did cause a lot of harm in my life. And Yeah, when I left that program, I came straight into the rooms. I threw my hand up awkwardly. I said, help, I have no idea what I'm doing. And, like I felt unconditional love come back at me. I really, really did. Like that space of heaven where I had my spiritual experience is nothing but unconditional love. And I find the same feeling in these rooms. I really, really do. There's just like something about us, like we're forged together. Like, I don't identify with everybody in this room because we're all addicts. I identify with everyone in this room because we're all in recovery. Like we're all healing. No matter where we are in our healing journey, we've all made a conscious decision to heal. Like whether we stay on this path or to make a U-turn and loop around and to take a twist, it doesn't matter. We've all made a conscious decision to be here today to support each other. And that's insane to me. I didn't know that there was anything like collaboration in the human experience. I thought that it was all about competition and survival. And today I see that it's about collaborating with one another, about lifting each other up, I asked somebody to be my sponsor almost immediately coming into the rooms. It was like asking someone to marry me without an engagement ring. It was like so awkward. I was like, I don't have anything to offer you. What do you think? And this woman said yes, like she wanted to be part of my life. I couldn't even believe it. And I have a wonderful sponsor and we work steps together. And, my disease manifests in other ways. When I let go of the drugs, and eating disorder developed very prevalently in my life. And my sponsor allows me to work steps around my eating disorder because that's how my disease manifests right now. And that's a real gift because I've talked to other people and like in other fellowships, and they're just like, yeah, my sponsor only wants to deal with like this one manifestation. And I'm really grateful for my sponsor. She's amazing. And I'm really, really grateful to have her in my life. And she's actually the best friend of the woman who carried the message of H&I to me like the first time that I tried recovery, which is just like a really cool synchronicity that like I'm part of this woman's life who was where I first heard the message of NA, like it all like looped back around. And I'm of service in this fellowship. I do service in multiple meetings. I found a home group, like it took me some time navigating around the rooms to find my people, but my home group is a community of people that are the members of my soul family. I am completely convinced that I have spent lifetimes and lifetimes on earth with these individual souls learning lessons, and this time around, it's to learn the lesson of addiction and more importantly, to learn the lesson of recovery. And to be there for each other on this spiritual journey. And like these people vibrate with me in like this amazing way. And I go to it's a daily Zoom meeting. It's in the afternoon. It's a New York City based meeting. It's called Daily Gratitude. And it's a wonderful, warm community of people. And they support me, like they give me permission to dream. Like I never knew that I was allowed to dream. I've never experienced love in my life. And that's like an embarrassing thing to say as like a 38-year-old woman, like I didn't know what it was like to be loved. But I know what it's like to be loved now. I feel it in this fellowship, like being an addict is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so grateful that my parents were addicts. I'm so grateful that I am an addict because I have been able to forge myself to wonderful people like all of you in my life. This is my life now, And so I think I'm going to end it there. I'm really grateful to be part of your home tonight. Thank you for allowing me in. And I think the topic that I wanted to talk about was spirituality. Like in my own experience, like my spiritual awakening happened before coming into recovery. But the really cool thing about this fellowship is that the steps offer us a spiritual awakening. And mine happened like in an instant shift of consciousness. And I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. It was like, it took me a year and a half to integrate my spiritual experience. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't say any words for 5 months. Now I can talk about it like very eloquently. The words have found their way to me by no doing of my own, just by like practicing principles and like having support. But if anybody wants to talk about like their own sort of spiritual journey, I would love to hear about it. Thank you again for letting me be part of your recovery, and thank you for being part of mine.